Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Wayne, founder of One Sober to Another. It has been a long time since I've been here on the channel. And it's not because I don't like you snappy people. It's because I've been dealing with some things that have had me revisit a lot of the traditions and principles that I've learned in my sobriety. Today we're getting real about it. Are you ready to go? Let's get it. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I've been going through a lot of stuff. My wife and I got separated. A good friend of mine died, and I've just been trying to process everything in an appropriate manner. Now, part of that journey left me emotionally drunk. It left me emotionally a mess, and there's no way that I could be of any assistance for any of you if I was still in that condition. Now, did I drink? No, absolutely not. I have still been living sober for almost 9 years, despite all of the adversity and challenge that I have been going through. Now, this is not a pity party, folks. This is a lessons learned and getting real about the hard stuff, because that is where true sobriety and long-term sobriety lies, is getting real, getting honest about the hard things in your life and about what you have to do to overcome and to not drink for that next 24 hours and just for today. You ready to keep going? Let's drive on. I wrote down some things in my handy dandy notebook so that I don't go off track, because it's real easy for me to lose track and lose my train of thought and to drive down a rabbit hole that makes no sense for you. And by the way, before I carry on like Donkey Kong, I just wanted to throw a shout out to my friends, Big Lobo, Timberwolf, I Love an Alcoholic, and Madonna, who just wrote me today. Not Madonna the singer, Madonna a friend. And you know, we're all going through our stuff. We're all going through different changes, and how we get real about it affects the way that we respond to these things in our lives and in our worlds as we cultivate them. Now, you may hear a little bit of an echo because that's from my new apartment. That's right, because in the beginning of this, I told you, my wife and I are now separated. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about that, and not in a way that's going to make you go, oh my God, would you please stop whining, dude? We had enough. Because there's some lessons in here, some crinkles and some little tidbits of knowledge that might apply to you in your life, and that may have an answer or at least a direction that might be helpful for you. Make sense like two nickels? Let's drive on. Oh, 22 years of marriage, right? Pardon me. 22 years of marriage is a very hard thing to let go of. It's a very hard thing to say, well, that's over, move on. So if you understand what I'm talking about, or if you've been through something similar, drop your comments below, because I guarantee you somebody is hoping that they're not alone in their struggles, because I thought I was alone, but daggone it, I found out real quick that I'm not. The 22 years of marriage. Now, there has been a long process that led all the way up to my wife and I getting separated. Now, I promised her I wouldn't talk about her, but I'm not. In a sense, I'm talking about the marriage. So there's a lot of things that cultivated the final boiling point, so to speak. And it, you know, I guess it all started in the beginning, really, because when we first got married, we met at a bar. And when we first got married, it was 6 months later. And when we first got married, I went off to combat. And when I came back from combat, you know what? I wanted to drink, party, and do some things. And daggone it, I wasn't really too concerned about anyone else but myself. And now that's the drive of an alcoholic like me, is narcissism, right? Me, 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 me. At least that's what I've been told. So through that drinking and through what came of it, you know, my whole relationship with my wife, I mean, I guess you could say it was built on need, and it was generally me needing her to get me out of some trouble or to get me out of a situation or to help me pay off this, help me pay off that. And I even ended up putting her in a position to where we couldn't pay for this and we couldn't pay for that because I was drinking all the daggone money. Now, I got my handy dandy microphone, so if that's a distraction for you folks, just look at what's behind me. It'll keep you going. This pattern of emotional starvation towards my wife drove on and continued to repeat the same cycle for years and decades even. And unfortunately, you know what? I didn't pay much mind to it because I was too busy getting drunk. I was too busy worrying about myself or worrying about the next party or worrying about, oh my God, why did I get married in the first place? And now a lot of you can relate to that because we really tend to jump into things as people with addictive personalities, and we tend to take on a lot more than we can handle simply because we wanted at that time. And that's exactly what I did, and that's exactly what I thought my wife signed on for. I was like, hey, she married me that way. She knew I was that way. She knew I drank. She knew I blah, blah, blah. She knew I partied, and on and on and on. I simplify this and I make excuses for it through the Rolodex as I go back in the reel. And, I just said to myself, my behavior it's acceptable because that's what I am. That's who I am. I drink. That's what I do. I party. That's who people know me as. So that's what I'm going to continue to do. And this went on for years. And when I got sober, when I finally stopped drinking, my friends, when I finally stopped drinking, I thought to myself, you know what? I stopped drinking. I stopped, doing what was hurting my relationship the most. I'm just checking to see if that's still on. I was stopping what was hurting my relationship the most. Then I must be okay. I must be doing the right thing. Therefore, I deserve this big old giant pat on the back, right? Well, that's at least what I thought in my head. So I said to myself, there's nothing else wrong. Why is she still upset? There's nothing else that I can do. I mean, I'm making money. I got a job. I managed to retire from the Army. I'm able to provide. But what am I forgetting? Why is she always so angry? This is what I used to ask myself. Why is she yelling at me now? Why is she saying I can't do this? Why is she saying I shouldn't do that? And folks, now I've been sober. I stopped that drinking. I put the cap on that bottle. I put it down. I walked away. What could it possibly be? Well, it was possibly, if I'm being honest with myself and honest with you guys, is my ego was still rolling along. My ego was still driving the actions that I took and the decisions that I made for me. Now, okay, was I being able to give to my family and everything else? Yeah, of course. But was I emotionally there for her? Not really, because like I said in the beginning of that little spiel, is that I thought because I stopped drinking that it's okay, that there's nothing else that could possibly be wrong, and why would she still be upset? Well, if I'm being honest, I didn't care if I left the house and didn't tell her. I didn't care if I bought 26 items on Amazon and had them sent to the front door, and every time the packages came, I just said, yep, I bought something else. I didn't care how her day went, and I honestly, I took stock of this in the last couple weeks, and it turns out that I'm completely selfish, and that I had to do a little reformatting of the way that I approach my life. Now, what does that mean? What does that look like for a single 48-year-old, well, separated, someone who doesn't drink, someone who doesn't go to nightclubs because of what's there, and I'm still a father, and I still have responsibilities. What does that look like for me now? Well, I'm going to tell you what it looks like. It looks like that, I'm not going to drink because that's not going to lead me anywhere good. Now, I told you guys I had a new friend. Her name is Madonna, and not the singer. She wrote me earlier, and I'm not going to tell you the entire context, but the bottom line is that she does not want to drink anymore. She does not want to make a fool of herself, and she was hesitant in order to go to a place that she hadn't been in many years out of fear of being vulnerable. Now, this place can help her, so it's not like a bad spot. And I totally relate to that because just yesterday, I had to, get dressed. I had to not drink. I had to clean my new apartment. I had to talk to my son, and I had to plan out my day, because if I don't plan out my day, then I'm aimless. And what happens to an alcoholic like me when I'm aimless is I find that one spot that is going to get me in trouble. So I made a plan. And as I was cultivating my plan and everything else, I thought to myself, you know what? I have not been to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous in almost 8 years. But I talk about the principles and traditions of AA all the time on my YouTube channel. So you know what I got to do, folks? You know what I got to do? I got to find myself a meeting, and I got to get there. And I got to get there now before my brain continues to spiral and put me in a place where I might not make it back. And for me, that means the bottom of a bottle, friends. I did the old Googler. I put everything into the Google machine, and what spit out was the meeting is like right down the road. It's like 9 minutes down the road. Now, the last time that I went there, I remember it being 20 minutes away. So before that, I'd taken a shower and everything else, and I went to this meeting, and they were passing around this little can, and inside the can they had little, what do they call those things? Like popsicle sticks or something like that, right? And on the popsicle sticks, they had names, subjects of what that person who holds that popsicle stick is going to talk about. And mine was resentment. Now, I had spent the last month and a half forming huge, unimaginable resentments towards my wife because she didn't want me anymore. Now, I already told you that I left her emotionally bankrupt, and I already told you that I passively neglected her even in my sobriety because of my ego. So I was still forming these resentments because A, she said she didn't want to be together anymore, which, I mean, who can blame her, I guess. And perhaps this chapter of her life will look a little better, and I'm happy that she's happy with her decision. She took the key away for the house, which, I mean, okay, that's all right. I will survive. I will get through this day, and I will not drink, my friends. But I was forming these resentments that were eating me up on the inside and driving this thought process of, what she did wrong, what was her fault, why is she mad at me, why did I get kicked out, why do I have to give up things. I told you guys I wasn't on a pity party, right? Because there's a lot of lessons in here if you play it back. And what I came up with, friends, is I'm going to that meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I have this little popsicle stick, and that popsicle stick on it says resentments. And I was like, man, this is perfect. What timing and what coincidence that I end up at a meeting after 8 years in a state of frustration, a state of denial, a state of resentment, and a state of dysfunction. And I end up at this meeting and I get to talk about it with people who get me, with people who understand, with people who will not give me that pat on the back, who will not sugarcoat the truth. And that's why Lobo, my man, and Timberwolf, you as well, they won't sugarcoat it, and they won't clout the fact that there's certain stuff that I'm accountable for. And I respect it, and I respect it, and I respect my wife's decisions, and I respect and hope that she's happy. And I respect all of you, and I thank you for watching this today, because getting real about the hard stuff is the hard part of living sober. Is you have to face your fear. You have to be emotionally resilient. You have to be able to identify your feelings. You have to be able to act. And most times, more than not, your emotions will drive consequence. Your thoughts will drive consequence. And so for me, as my emotions and my thoughts were getting out of control, I said, you know what? I know where I belong. I need to go to a meeting. And that's my gig, folks. If that's not your gig, I mean, I got it. But do what keeps you sober. Do what keeps you positive in the way that you react to life and the proactive steps that you can take in order to make tomorrow better. Make sense like two nickels, folks? Let me know what you think about this video in the comments. I'm telling you what, folks, life is a daggone garden. If you've already subscribed to this channel, I firmly want to say that I appreciate you very much, and I love you because you're still here. And this fight that we're fighting, it's real, it's hard, and we have to get down to brass tacks, and we have to be real about the hard stuff. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, my friends, consider subscribing, because the experiences that we have in this life will help somebody else who is going through the same thing, or who is on the verge of doing something that they don't want to do, or living the way that they don't want to live. And you just might be the key to them finding their happiness and their identity and their selves. And I think that if we give back, we are whole, and we build our emotional and spiritual banks. And that, my friends, will keep us sober for yet another 24 hours. Life's a garden. Again, dig it. I'm going to see y'all in that next one. Please comment below. Have a good day.